Captain Alex Bennett stared at the radar screen on the bridge of the EDF Valiant. The blip that appeared near Jupiter's orbit wasn't supposed to be there. Nothing was scheduled to be in that sector today. Mason, run diagnostics on the radar system, Alex ordered his first officer. Lieutenant Mason Clark tapped at his console. System checks out, Captain. That contact is real. Alex leaned forward in his command chair. After 15 years with Earth's Defense Force, he thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. Object is changing course, reported Ensign Lisa Grant from the sensor station. It's accelerating toward us at impossible speeds. Within minutes, the unknown vessel matched their orbit perfectly. It was massive, at least 3 times the size of the Valiant, with a sleek design that seemed to shimmer against the blackness of space. No engine ports were visible, no windows, no obvious weapons. Open communications on all frequencies, Alex said, straightening his uniform. This might be the most important moment in human history. The main screen flickered and revealed a being, unlike anything Alex had ever seen. Humanoid in basic shape, but with pale blue skin that seemed almost translucent. Its eyes were large and entirely black, and it had no visible nose, just 2 small slits. When it spoke, its voice was melodic, almost musical. I am Ambassador Zal-3 of the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace and with great interest in your species. The bridge crew fell silent. First contact. After centuries of speculation, humanity finally had proof they weren't alone. I am Captain Alex Bennett of Earth's Defense Force. We welcome you. Alex tried to keep his voice steady. May I ask why you've approached our vessel? The alien made a gesture that might have been a smile. We have been observing Earth for some time. Your world is quite remarkable, as are you. Within hours, the news spread across Earth. The alien vessel moved into Earth orbit, and diplomatic teams rushed to prepare for the first official meeting. Dr. Olivia Martinez was pulled from her laboratory at the Global Science Institute and thrust into the center of humanity's most significant encounter. You understand, Olivia said as she studied the medical data provided by the aliens. This is a lot for us to process. Ambassador Zal-3 nodded. 2 other aliens stood behind him, their movements careful and measured in Earth's gravity. We represent over 300 species from across the galaxy. The Confederation has existed for 50,000 of your Earth years. And you've been watching us? Asked Olivia. Yes. Your planet is what we classify as a Class 12 death world. Zal-3's translator device gave the words a strange emphasis. It is extremely rare for intelligent life to evolve in such harsh conditions. Olivia blinked in surprise. Harsh? Earth is teeming with life. Precisely. Life that evolved to survive in what most of the galaxy would consider impossible conditions. Your gravity is crushing to most species. Your oxygen levels are toxic to many. Your background radiation would kill most Confederation citizens within days. And the pathogens. Zal-3 shuddered visibly. Your bodies fight off millions of microscopic invaders constantly. Your immune systems are remarkable. The realization dawned on Olivia slowly. Humans weren't fragile. By galactic standards, they were incredibly tough. Is that why you approached us now? She asked. We have been debating whether to invite Earth into the Confederation for decades. Some feared your physical capabilities. Others argued that your adaptability would be valuable. The meeting room door opened and General Paul Wright entered with several military advisors. The aliens tensed visibly at the presence of more humans. Sorry I'm late, the general said. Security concerns. Zal-3 gestured toward his companions. This is Science Director Voon and Security Coordinator Melth. They will help explain our proposal. Science Director Voon stepped forward, moving with obvious effort. The aliens wore what looked like mechanical assistance devices on their limbs. Exoskeletons to help them cope with Earth's gravity. Your species evolved on a world that should not support complex life, Voon said. Your bodies can withstand pressures, temperatures, and toxins that would kill most sentient beings. You heal from injuries that would be fatal to others. You adapt to new environments with remarkable speed. Security Coordinator Melth added, and you developed weapons. Many weapons. General Wright frowned. Is that a problem? It is potentially a solution, Zal-3 said quietly. The Confederation faces challenges. We have lived in relative peace for millennia, but peace has dulled certain instincts. The meeting lasted hours. As night fell over the United Nations complex in New York, humanity's representatives began to understand the true reason for the Confederation's arrival. They needed soldiers. They needed beings who could survive environments that would kill most of their citizens. They needed humans. 3 days later, at the formal signing ceremony bringing Earth into the Confederation as a probationary member, Alex found himself standing next to Olivia as they watched world leaders gather. "They're afraid of us," Olivia whispered. "Did you notice how they keep their distance? How they flinch when someone moves too quickly?" Alex nodded. "I spoke with some of their military advisors. They don't have a standing army like we do. Their security forces are minimal, so why invite us in? What aren't they telling us?" Before Alex could answer, Ambassador Zal-3 approached them. The alien moved carefully, its exoskeleton whirring softly. "Captain Bennett, Dr. Martinez, I must speak with you privately." They followed the ambassador to a small room away from the ceremony. Zal-3's black eyes seemed darker than before. "The Confederation Council voted to reveal this only to select humans," the ambassador said. "Something is happening at the edge of known space. Something that conventional Confederation forces cannot stop." Zal-3 activated a small device that projected a holographic image of space. A swirling darkness moved through star systems, leaving nothing behind. "We call them the Void Swarm. They have destroyed 7 worlds already. Our weapons barely slow them down." "And you think we can help?" Alex asked. "You evolved on a world that forged you through constant threats and challenges. Your bodies and minds developed to overcome, to survive, to fight." Zal-3's voice trembled slightly. "The Confederation needs Deathworlders now." Olivia and Alex exchanged looks. First contact had brought humanity into a larger universe, but it had also drafted them into an interstellar war. "How much time do we have?" Alex asked. "Not enough," the ambassador replied. "Never enough." 6 months passed quickly. Earth was now buzzing with alien technology and visitors from across the galaxy. Humans learned they were something rare and strange in the universe. Creatures born from a world that should have killed them. Lieutenant, Commander Ryan Winters stood on the observation deck of the Confederation flagship Harmonious Unity. The massive vessel dwarfed anything humans had built. Through the viewing window, he watched stars streak by as they traveled faster than light. "Still, getting used to it?" asked a voice behind him. Ryan turned to see Catherine Norris. She wore the blue uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps with the new Confederation emblem on her shoulder. "I don't think I'll ever get used to it," Ryan admitted. 6 months ago, I was patrolling Earth's orbit. Now I'm heading to an alien council, meeting 50 light years from home. Catherine smiled, but her eyes showed worry. "This emergency session isn't just a formality. The Confederation Council doesn't gather all representatives unless something serious is happening. They were right to be concerned." Hours later, they sat among delegates from over 100 worlds in the Great Hall. The room was designed to accommodate beings of all sizes and environmental needs. Some aliens floated in special tanks, others sat in sealed chambers with different air mixtures. The High Counselor, a tall being with 4 arms and silver skin, stood at the center platform. "We bring grave news. The Void Swarm has increased its attacks. 3 more systems have gone dark in the past month." Holographic displays showed images that made Ryan's stomach turn. Entire planets stripped of life. Fleets of Confederation ships crumbling against dark, shifting masses that seemed to bend and twist in impossible ways. "Our conventional forces have proven ineffective," the High Counselor continued, "which is why we now turn to our newest members." All eyes in the chamber turned toward the human delegation. Catherine leaned toward Ryan and whispered, "I don't like where this is going." The council spent hours explaining the situation. The Void Swarm was unlike anything the Confederation had faced before. They moved through space in ways that defied physics. They absorbed energy weapons and quickly adapted to new attacks. Confederation. Soldiers used to centuries of peace were no match for them. We need human soldiers, the defense minister finally said plainly. Your physical capabilities and your... He paused, searching for the right word. Your natural aggression may be our only hope. Ryan noticed how many delegates shifted uncomfortably at this. He had learned that most species in the Confederation had evolved beyond what they called survival instincts. Violence was almost unknown in their society. The concept of standing armies was foreign to them. Later, in a private meeting room, Earth's representatives debated the request. They're asking us to fight their war, said General Rodriguez, his face stern. We've barely joined their club and already they want us to be their soldiers. Can you blame them? Catherine asked. You've seen the footage. Whatever these void, swarm things are, they're consuming entire worlds. Ryan studied the tactical data they'd been given. What bothers me is how little they know about this enemy. The swarm has been attacking for nearly a year, but the Confederation still doesn't understand what they want or how they function. After much debate, Earth agreed to send a small force to assess the threat. Captain Darnell Jackson would lead the first human response unit, 100 soldiers trained for special operations. 2 weeks later, Ryan watched as human troops boarded their new ships. The Confederation had provided vessels equipped with their advanced technology, but modified to human specifications. They called the lead ship Defiant. This is unprecedented, said a voice beside Ryan. He turned to see Ambassador Zalthri. Some council members protested allowing humans to have our military technology so soon. They're afraid of us, Ryan said. It wasn't a question. Zalthri's expression was hard to read. You must understand. Most species evolve on gentle worlds. They develop intelligence first, physical prowess later, or not at all. Humans did both simultaneously. You are intelligent predators. That combination is concerning. Before the human response unit departed, the Confederation insisted on joint training exercises. They wanted to see how humans operated, to learn their capabilities. The results shocked them. In the training facility on the Confederation military base, Captain Jackson and his team demonstrated human abilities. They ran endurance tests that left alien observers stunned. They lifted weights that would crush most species. They functioned in environments that would kill others in minutes. During combat simulations, the difference became even clearer. Humans reacted faster, thought quicker under pressure, and showed a pain tolerance that seemed unnatural to the watching aliens. Catherine stood with Ryan and several Confederation officials as they observed the training. Is this normal? Asked Science Director Voon, watching a human soldier continue a combat exercise despite a broken finger. For trained soldiers? Yes, Catherine replied. Ryan noticed how the alien officials whispered among themselves, their body, language showing both awe and fear. After the exercises, Captain Jackson approached them. He was a tall man with dark skin and a serious expression. My team is ready. When do we deploy against the actual threat? The defense minister seemed hesitant. We have located a small swarm incursion in the Vega sector. Your ships will join a Confederation battle group there in 3 days. As they walked back to their quarters, Catherine pulled Ryan aside. Did you see their reactions? They're terrified of what humans can do. Ryan nodded. They don't understand what they've invited into their ranks, and I'm not sure we should tell them. What do you mean? They've seen trained soldiers in controlled situations. They haven't seen what humans are truly capable of when pushed to our limits. Ryan looked out at the stars through a nearby viewport. I hope we never have to show them. 3 days later, the Defiant and its sister ships jumped to the Vega sector. Captain Jackson addressed his crew before they entered combat. Remember your training. We're not just fighting for Earth now. We're fighting for all civilized worlds. He paused, his expression grave. But most importantly, we're about to show the galaxy what humans can really do. As the ships approached the battle zone, long-range sensors detected the void swarm. The dark, shifting mass moved through space toward a populated planet. Confederation ships fired at it with little effect. All hands to battle stations, Jackson ordered. Let's introduce ourselves. The human ships accelerated toward the enemy. The first real test of Deathworlders against an unknown threat had begun. The battle was unlike anything the human soldiers had trained for. Captain Darnell Jackson watched from the bridge of the Defiant as the Void Swarm moved with strange purpose. The enemy wasn't a fleet of ships or even creatures in the traditional sense. They appeared as shifting black masses that absorbed light and matter alike. "They're ignoring the Confederation vessels," said Lieutenant Eric Foster, tactical officer. "They're heading straight for us." Jackson narrowed his eyes. "All ships, evasive pattern Delta, weapons free." The human ships broke formation. Unlike the rigid, predictable movements of Confederation forces, the Earth vessels moved with seeming randomness. The Defiant fired its main weapons, technology provided by the Confederation but modified by human engineers. The energy beams struck the nearest swarm mass. For a moment, it seemed to recoil. "Direct hit," Eric called out. But the celebration was short-lived. The swarm entity reshaped itself and continued forward. More concerning, all nearby swarm masses now changed direction, focusing entirely on the human ships. "They're targeting us specifically," Jackson realized. But why? Communications specialist Samantha Wells worked furiously at her station. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual signals. Not standard communication patterns, but there's definitely data transmission between the swarm entities. Can you decode it?" "Working on it, sir." It's unlike anything in the Confederation database. The battle continued for hours. The human ships proved more effective than the Confederation vessels had been, but still couldn't destroy the swarm. They could only slow it down, cause temporary disruption before the entities reformed. After the fighting reached a stalemate, the swarm suddenly retreated. The human fleet had suffered damage but no losses. The Confederation ships had barely engaged the enemy. On the Defiance Bridge, Jackson received a transmission from the Confederation flagship. "This is unprecedented," said Admiral Thrix, the tentacled commander of the alien forces. "In all previous encounters, the swarm has never retreated unless it had consumed all available resources." "They were focused on us," Jackson replied. "Almost. Like they recognized us specifically." Later in the debriefing room, Samantha Wells presented her findings. "I've partially decoded some of the swarm transmissions. It's incomplete, but troubling." She displayed the translated segments on the main screen, found the source. "Confirm genetic pattern. Retreat and report. Apex threat identified." Jackson studied the fragments. "They recognized us. But how? Humans have never encountered the swarm before." "Maybe they have," Samantha suggested. "Just not us specifically." Back on Earth, Dr. Lucas Freeman had been granted access to Confederation historical records. As one of Earth's leading xenobiologists, he had been tasked with learning everything possible about the galaxy's species and history. In his laboratory at the Global Science Institute, Lucas made a discovery that sent him rushing to the emergency communication center. "I need to speak with the human forces near the Vega sector," he insisted. "It's urgent." Hours later, Lucas was explaining his findings to Captain Jackson, Catherine Norris, and Ryan Winters via secure transmission. "The Confederation records show similar consumption events throughout their history," Lucas explained. "Roughly every 50,000 years, entities matching the swarm's description appear, consume resources from several systems, then disappear." "A natural cycle?" Catherine asked. "That's what the Confederation believed. But I found something they missed." Lucas displayed ancient star charts. Each time, the swarm appeared from different regions of space, and each time, they behaved more like refugees than invaders. Ryan leaned forward. "Refugees? From what?" "That's the question. In each cycle, the swarm fled from something they called the apex predators. The Confederation dismissed this as primitive superstition. When Lucas shared his theory with senior Confederation scientists, their reaction surprised him. Not disbelief, but solemn confirmation. "Our oldest texts speak of this," said elder scientist Trell, whose species had been spacefaring for millennia before humans discovered fire. "Worlds where evolution took a terrible path, where life became too efficient at survival, too aggressive in its expansion." Death worlds, Lucas said, yes, but more than that. Worlds where the dominant species became so adapted to killing and consuming that they eventually sought to consume the stars themselves. Elder Trell's voice trembled. We believed these were myths, cautionary tales. Catherine realized the truth. First, you didn't invite humans to help fight an external threat. You've been negotiating with what you believe is the lesser of two evils. The Elder didn't deny it. When Captain Jackson's fleet pursued the retreating swarm, they pushed deeper into uncharted space. The Confederation ships followed reluctantly, their sensors scanning constantly for signs of the enemy. 3 days into their pursuit, the swarm suddenly abandoned several outposts. No fighting, no last stand. They simply fled. Commander Victor, Ellis led a team to investigate one of the abandoned positions. They found strange organic technology and evidence of hasty departure. It's like they dropped everything and ran, Victor reported as his team explored the outpost. But from what? In a central chamber, they discovered what appeared to be a laboratory. Inside were samples of biological material in stasis fields. The team's science officer, Lieutenant Abby Martinez, scanned them with Confederation equipment. This can't be right, she muttered, running the scan again. Captain, you need to see this. Jackson examined the readings and felt a cold dread settle in his stomach. The biological samples showed 87% genetic similarity with Earth organisms. That what I think it is? He asked quietly. Abby nodded. Human DNA, or something very close to it. Further exploration revealed records and data. With help from the ship's computers, they translated enough to understand the terrible truth. The apex predators weren't aliens. They were humans, or something that had once been human. A lost colony from Earth's earliest forgotten attempts at interstellar travel, evolved over centuries on a world even harsher than Earth. These altered humans had developed terrifying adaptations, cellular regeneration, distributed neural networks, and the ability to incorporate genetic material from consumed organisms. They had become the ultimate expression of Deathworld evolution. Jackson gathered his officers. We need to inform Earth and the Confederation immediately. The swarm isn't our enemy. They're running from something much worse. From us, Victor said, or what we could become. As they prepared to transmit their findings, long-range sensors detected new contacts approaching at impossible speeds. Not the chaotic masses of the swarm, but sleek, predatory shapes, moving with purpose. The ultimate, Deathworlders had arrived. The approaching vessels were unlike anything Captain Jackson had ever seen. They were massive, at least 3 times the size of the Defiant, and seemed to blend organic and mechanical components. Their hulls pulsed with veins of light that looked disturbingly like blood vessels. All ships defensive formation, Jackson ordered, but hold your fire unless I give the command. The human fleet moved to protect the Confederation vessels. On the Defiant's bridge, tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. They're scanning us, Lieutenant Eric Foster reported. Intense scans. They're looking at everything. Our ships, our biology, our weapons. Samantha Wells worked frantically at her communications console. Captain, they're broadcasting on multiple frequencies. I think they're trying to talk to us. Put it through, Jackson ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was strange, almost human, but with tones and rhythms that seemed wrong somehow, like someone who had learned to speak by reading about it rather than hearing it. Earth. Vessels. You are recognized. You are kin. Stand aside. Jackson exchanged looks with his officers before responding. This is Captain Darnell Jackson of Earth's Defense Force. Who are you and what are your intentions? A pause followed. Then, we are the evolved. Once like you, now ascended. The prey flees before us. Do not interfere. Images appeared on the main screen, transmitted by the alien ships. They showed beings that looked almost human but wrong in subtle ways. Their skin had a gray-blue tint. Their fingers ended in sharp points. Their eyes were larger, entirely black, and seemed to have nictitating membranes like those of reptiles. My God, whispered Eric. They really are human yet, or were once. The Confederation ships began to retreat. Admiral Thrix sent an urgent message to Jackson. Captain, our sensors indicate these beings share genetic markers with your species but have significant mutations. They are emitting radiation levels that will kill my crew within minutes of close contact. We must withdraw. The Confederation didn't wait for a response. Their ships turned and jumped to faster-than-light travel, leaving the human fleet alone with these evolved humans. Jackson made a difficult decision. All ships maintain defensive posture. Let's hear them out. The largest of the evolved vessels moved closer. It dwarfed the Defiant, casting a shadow over the human ship. You protect the weak, the strange voice said. Curious, inefficient. You have not yet embraced your true nature. And what nature is that? Jackson asked. Apex predators, the ultimate consumers, the final stage of evolution on any death world. Communications officer Samantha worked quietly at her station while the conversation continued. She managed to establish a secure channel to Earth. Back on Earth, the news of the evolved humans sent shockwaves through the leadership. The Confederation representatives were in a state of near panic. You must understand what this means, Ambassador Zalthri said to the Emergency Council. These beings are what your species could become, what the harshness of your world has prepared you to be. Dr. Lucas Freeman studied the biological data transmitted from the Defiant. They've adapted beyond anything we thought possible. Their cellular structure can reorganize itself. They can process almost any organic matter as food. They can survive in environments that would kill us instantly. Catherine Norris, who had returned to Earth as diplomatic liaison, asked the question. Everyone was thinking, are they still human? Genetically, yes, at their core, Lucas replied. But they've engineered themselves over generations. They've incorporated DNA from other species they've encountered. They're human plus something more, or something less, Catherine said, quietly. In space, Captain Jackson continued the tense conversation with the evolved. Why are you pursuing the swarm? He asked. They disrupt the balance. They consume without purpose, without evolution. They are a plague on the stars. And what do you do that's different? The response chilled everyone who heard it. We consume with purpose. We take the worthy. We evolve. We perfect. All life exists to be either fuel or future for the evolved. They see themselves as gardeners, Victor Ellis whispered to Jackson. Pruning what they consider weeds. Jackson stood from his command chair. And what do you consider us? Earth humans? Potential. Raw material. You stand at the crossroads. We once faced. You can join us. Become more than you are. As the conversation continued, Samantha made a startling discovery. She analyzed the communication patterns and energy signatures from the evolved ships. Captain, she said urgently, they're not just talking to us. They're scanning our brains. These communication signals contain patterns that interact with human neural pathways. They're trying to influence us, Jackson realized. Cut communications, all ships maintain radio silence except for encoded tactical channels. The evolved ships moved closer. You resist. Interesting. The others never resist. Jackson ordered his fleet to fall back while maintaining defensive positions. He needed time to report this new information to Earth. In an encrypted transmission to Earth Command, Jackson laid out the situation. These evolved humans see themselves as the ultimate form of life. They believe they're helping the galaxy by culling what they consider inferior species, and they want us to join them. General Rodriguez's response was grim. Can we fight them if necessary? I don't know, Jackson admitted. Their technology is far beyond ours, and they understand us in ways the Confederation never could. They know how we think. As Earth's leadership debated their response, the Confederation Council was in disarray. Some members advocated for immediate quarantine of all human-inhabited systems, both Earth humans and these evolved ones. Others pushed for an alliance, with Earth humans against their evolved cousins. Admiral Sofia Vega, the highest-ranking officer in Earth's Defense Force, proposed a third option. We understand them in ways the Confederation never could, she argued to the President and Joint Chiefs, because we carry the same potential. Her plan was bold. A specialized team would attempt to establish meaningful contact with the evolved, to understand their true motives and perhaps negotiate. They recognize us as kin, she explained. That gives us an advantage no one else has. In space, the standoff continued. The evolved ships maintained position near the human fleet but made no aggressive moves. They seemed to be waiting. They could destroy us if they wanted to, Victor noted. Why haven't they? Because they see us as themselves, Jackson replied. The path not taken. And I think they're curious about that choice. A new transmission arrived from Earth. Special Forces Colonel Greg Harrison and xenobiologist Natalie Chen were being sent on a high-risk diplomatic mission. Their ship would carry minimal weapons but extensive communication equipment. As the human fleet waited for these reinforcements, Jackson stared at the massive ships of their evolved cousins and wondered which version of humanity the galaxy should fear more. Colonel Greg Harrison watched through the viewport as his small diplomatic vessel approached the massive ship of the evolved. The vessel looked like a cross between a living creature and a machine, with sections that pulsed and moved as if breathing. Nervous? Asked Natalie Chen, the xenobiologist who stood beside him. Should I be? Greg replied with a small smile. They're just our cousins who've turned themselves into space monsters. Natalie didn't smile back. They've had centuries to evolve beyond what we would recognize as human. Their biology, psychology, even their concept of self might be completely alien to us now. Their ship, named the Olive Branch, carried only minimal defensive systems. This was a mission of diplomacy, not combat. If the evolved wanted to destroy them, they could do so in seconds. We're being scanned, reported the pilot. Very intense. It feels different from normal scans. Greg nodded. They're probably looking at our DNA directly. A voice came through the communication system. The same strange, almost human voice Captain Jackson had reported. Approach and dock. 2 representatives only. No weapons. The docking procedure was automated. Their ship was guided into a massive bay that seemed more like the inside of a living organism than a mechanical structure. The walls pulsed with veins of light, and the air that filled the chamber when they opened their airlock had a strange, sweet smell. Atmosphere is breathable, Natalie confirmed, checking her instruments. Slightly higher oxygen content than Earth normal. Greg took a deep breath. Let's meet the family. They stepped out of their ship onto a surface that felt slightly soft, almost like walking on firm moss. 2 figures waited for them. They were humanoid, standing upright on 2 legs, with 2 arms and a head. But the similarities to humans ended there. Their skin had a blue-gray color and seemed to shift slightly as if it wasn't entirely solid. Their eyes were large and entirely black. They had no visible nose, just small slits, and their mouths were smaller than human mouths. They wore no clothing, but their bodies seemed covered in a thin layer of something that might have been living, technology. You are the emissaries, one of them said. Its voice sounded clearer in person, less distorted. I am Guide. This is Observer. Greg nodded respectfully. I am Colonel Greg Harrison. This is Dr. Natalie Chen. Follow, said Guide. They walked through corridors that seemed to grow and reshape themselves as they passed. Natalie took readings with her small handheld device, her eyes wide with scientific curiosity. Your vessel is partly alive, she said. Bioengineered technology? The distinction you make between biology and technology is primitive. Observer replied. All is material to be shaped by will. They entered a large chamber with a view of space. The human fleet and the evolved ships floated in the distance. In the center of the chamber was something like a table, though it grew directly from the floor. You fear us? Guide stated. It wasn't a question. We're cautious, Greg replied carefully. You've been hunting the Void Swarm. The Confederation fears you. We want to understand why. Observer made a gesture with its hand, and a 3-dimensional display appeared above the table. It showed galaxy maps, movement patterns, and data streams too complex for Greg to follow. The beings you call the Void Swarm consume without purpose, Guide explained. They take resources, destroy balance, leave chaos. We restore order. By destroying them, Natalie asked. By culling. By guiding evolution's path. Guide's black eyes fixed on her. As all apex species must. Natalie frowned. That's not how we see our role. Because you are young, still clinging to old ideas. We were like you once. The display changed to show images that shocked both humans. Earth, or what looked like Earth, but with continents shaped slightly differently. Human-like beings living in primitive conditions, then advancing through stages of development. This is not your world, Guide said. This was ours. A colony ship, lost from old Earth, crashed on a world harsher than your own. We survived. We evolved. How long ago? Natalie asked, her scientific mind racing. By your counting, 30,000 of your years, Observer replied. We adapted to our world. Then, we adapted our world to us, then we reached beyond. Greg tried to process this information. These beings were humans who had been separated from Earth for 30 millennia, evolving on an even harsher world than Earth. The Confederation fears you because you've been destroying their worlds, Greg said. Guide made a dismissive gesture. We restore balance. The Confederation spreads like a cancer, reshaping worlds to suit their weakness rather than adapting to survive. They create artificial environments that cannot sustain themselves. And that gives you the right to destroy. Them? Greg's voice hardened. We do not destroy. We prune. We guide. Guide's expression shifted slightly. Some species we preserve. Others we allow to find their own path. But those who disrupt the natural order must be corrected. Natalie stepped forward. And where do we fit in this vision? Earth humans? Both evolved beings turned to look at her. For the first time, they seemed genuinely curious. You stand at a crossroads, Observer said. You have the strength of Deathworlders, the potential to become like us, yet you protect the weak. You ally with those who would reshape worlds rather than adapt to them. We call it cooperation, Greg said. Different species with different strengths working together. A temporary phase. Guide dismissed. Eventually, you will embrace your true nature or be consumed by those who have. The discussions continued for hours. The evolved showed them more of their ship, explained their history, their biology, their philosophy. They had spread across hundreds of star systems, reshaping themselves and the worlds they encountered. Eventually, they returned to the docking bay. Before Greg and Natalie boarded their ship, Guide made them an offer. Join us. Your species can ascend as we have. The weak worlds of the Confederation will fall eventually. The strong adapt or die. Greg looked at the being that humanity might become and felt a deep sadness. That's not who we are. It is who you were born to be, Observer said. Deathworlders, survivors, apex predators. We're more than our origins, Natalie replied. We can choose what we become. As their ship departed, Greg sent a message to the waiting human fleet and to Earth. He explained everything they had learned. The evolved had given them 3 standard months to consider their offer, join them or be considered part of the imbalance they sought to correct. In the days that followed, the galaxy held its breath. The Confederation Council debated evacuating systems near human space. Some called for a preemptive strike against all human worlds. Others sought alliance with Earth, against their evolved cousins. On Earth, Admiral Sofia Vega addressed the United Nations. We now stand at the crossroads. These evolved humans show us one path, power through domination, through becoming the ultimate predator. But there is another path. We can be the Deathworlders who defend life rather than consume it. As humanity, prepared for the choice that would define their species, Captain Jackson watched the stars from the bridge of the Defiant. The universe had learned that Deathworlders were the ultimate threat. Now it waited to see what kind of Deathworlders humans would choose to be.